One wrong move, and everyone would die. A deadly plague tore through Israel, and nobody could stop it. But while people panicked, one powerful man openly defied God before the entire nation. And one priest picked up a spear and changed Israel forever. Israel was camped at Shittim, right on the edge of the land God had promised them. The Jordan River was just ahead. Canaan was just beyond that. After 40 years in the desert, they were almost there. They didn't make it across clean. The men started spending time with the women of Moab and Midian, eating with them, going to their feasts. At those feasts, food was offered to Baal of Peor, a foreign god. The men ate it, then they came back and ate it again. Then they started worshipping at the shrines themselves. What started as shared meals turned into something that cut right to the bone. The men of Israel were bowing down to a foreign god, right on the doorstep of everything God had given them. Numbers 25:3 says it plainly. Israel joined themselves to Baal of Peor, and God's anger burned against them. The plague came without warning. It moved through the camp fast. Men who were standing at breakfast were on the ground by midday. There was no way to outrun it and no way to hide from it. It just came and started taking people one after another without slowing down. Everyone in the camp could see the connection between what the men had been doing and what was now happening. God was not keeping quiet about it. Moses got the order. The leaders who had worshipped Baal of Peor were to be executed. The judges were told to deal with the men under them who had gone after the foreign god. The whole congregation gathered at the entrance to the tabernacle and wept, not polite, composed weeping. Real grief, the kind that comes when people finally understand what they have done and see the cost of it in front of them. Moses stood at the front of all of it, and he wept too. The plague was still spreading, and then, while all of that was happening, while the people sat crying at the entrance to God's tent, while bodies were still being carried out of the camp, a man walked right through the middle of it. His name was Zimri, son of Salu, a leader in the tribe of Simeon, not a young soldier who didn't know better, a man of rank, a man with a name, a man that people recognized when he walked past. And he walked straight through the grieving crowd with a Midianite woman beside him. Cosbi, the daughter of Zur, whose own father was a chief among the Midianites. Zimri walked past Moses. He walked past the weeping crowd. He walked past the entrance to the tabernacle itself. And he took her into his tent. He didn't sneak. He didn't hide. He didn't wait for a moment when fewer people were watching. He did it in broad daylight, in front of everyone, while the nation sat in mourning over exactly this kind of behavior. It was the most openly defiant thing anyone had done since the plague began. What Zimri didn't know, as he walked through that crowd without a single glance of shame, was that one pair of eyes was not filled with tears. They were filled with something else entirely. Phinehas saw it. He was the son of Eleazar and the grandson of Aaron, the first high priest of Israel. He had grown up inside the priesthood. He knew the laws from the time he was a child. He understood what it cost for God to dwell among his people. He had sat with the congregation at the entrance to the tent. He had felt the full weight of what was happening to the nation around him. He had heard the sounds of the dying. He had seen the grief on Moses' face, and then he watched Zimri walk through all of it like it was nothing. Something rose up inside him. The Bible calls it zeal, the same word used for God's own passion for his people. Not just frustration, not just anger, something sharper than both of those things. More focused, a fire that had a clear direction and was not going to wait. He didn't call a meeting. He didn't go and ask Moses for permission. He didn't stand up and make a speech about what should be done. He stood up, grabbed a spear, and followed Zimri into the tent. He drove the spear through both of them. The plague stopped. Right then. Not the next morning. Not after another day of people dying. The moment Phinehas acted, the plague stopped. Numbers 25:9 tells us that 24,000 people had already died. 24,000. And it ended the instant one man stood up and did what everyone else had watched and done nothing about. The camp went quiet in a way it hadn't been in days. Phinehas walked back out into that silence. He didn't know yet what God had already decided this moment was going to mean for the rest of his life. God spoke to Moses shortly after. The message was personal and direct. He told Moses that Phinehas, son of Eleazar, grandson of Aaron the priest, had turned his wrath away from Israel. Because Phinehas had cared about God's honor, the same way God himself did, God had pulled back the full force of his destruction and had not wiped the nation out completely. And because of this, God was making a covenant with Phinehas, a covenant of peace. The priesthood would pass through his line forever because he had been zealous for his God and had made atonement for Israel. Numbers 25:11-13. It was not a small thing. The priesthood was the most important role in the entire nation. It was the bridge between God and the people. And God had just said it would pass through Phinehas and every generation after him. Not just because of who his family was, but because of what he had done when the moment came. When word spread through the camp that evening, people processed it in different ways. A group of men sat near a fire well after the sun had gone down. The camp was quieter than it had been in weeks. The plague was over, but the weight of everything sat on every person in the camp. But what none of them knew was that the disaster at Shittim had never been an accident. Someone had planned it from the beginning.
These videos take many hours to make. If you could, please like and subscribe. Also, we want to know which countries our viewers are watching this video from. Please comment the country you are watching from. Thank you.
He just stood up, one of them said, staring into the fire. While the rest of us were sitting there crying, he just stood up and did it. Nobody said anything for a moment. Moses wept too, someone said quietly. Moses had a direct order from God. Phinehas had nothing. He saw it himself and he moved on his own. A younger man on the edge of the group leaned forward. Zimri was a prince of Simeon. His family has real power, and Cosby's father is a chief in Midian. There are going to be people who want answers for what Phinehas did. The older man looked at him across the fire. God made a covenant of peace with him. Let them come. The younger man sat with that for a moment. Phinehas was not at any fire that night. He never was. He was already back at work. The murmuring in the camp was real, and it lasted. Zimri had been a man of standing. Cosby's family had influence. Not everyone understood what Phinehas had done, or accepted why he had done it. Some said he had moved without authority. Some said it was too far. But God had already spoken, and his position was clear. The covenant was not given to a man who had made a popular decision. It was given to a man who had made the right one, no matter who it upset. God's word on the Midianites came through Moses not long after. Treat them as enemies. Attack them. They had used deception to pull Israel into idol worship, and 24,000 graves were the evidence of how effective that plan had been. Numbers 31:16 later makes it clear that it was Balaam, the foreign prophet, who had advised the Midianite women to use this strategy against Israel in the first place. It had not been accidental. It had been deliberate from the start. And it was going to be answered. Moses sent an army of 12,000 men, 1,000 from each tribe, to go to war against Midian. And Phinehas went with them, not as a soldier, as a priest. Numbers 31:6 tells us he carried the sacred utensils of the tabernacle and the trumpets into the field. He was the presence of God's house moving alongside the army. Every man who marched could look over and see him and remember exactly what this war was about and why they were fighting it. When the army came back and the dust settled, something had shifted. After Joshua had led the people into Canaan and the tribes had begun settling into their land, the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh had gone back to their land on the east side of the Jordan River. They had fought alongside the other tribes all the way through the conquest, and now they were going home. When they reached the Jordan, they built a large altar near the riverbank. It was big, it was visible, and word of it reached the western tribes fast. The assumption was instant. These tribes had built their own place of worship, which broke God's law directly. There was only one altar for all of Israel. The western tribes didn't take long to decide what to do. They gathered at Shiloh and prepared for war. They were ready to march against their own brothers over it. Before a single soldier moved, they sent a delegation east. They chose Phinehas to lead it. 10 leaders went with him, 1 from each of the remaining tribes. It was not a random choice. The situation was one wrong word away from a civil war, and they needed someone who could walk into that kind of tension without it exploding. They chose the man who had handled the hardest moment any of them could remember. They crossed into the land of Gilead and came before the eastern tribes. The delegation put the accusation plainly. "What is this you have done? You have turned away from God and built your own altar. Do you not remember Peor? The plague came on the whole nation. 24,000 people died. We have not yet recovered from that. And now you do this? If the land on your side is unclean, then come back across and live among us, where the tabernacle of God stands. But do not build another altar against the Lord our God." The eastern tribes listened until the delegation finished. Then they answered. The altar was not for sacrifice, they said. It was not for worship. They had not built it to offer anything on it, or to set up a competing religious site. They built it as a monument, a visible marker for future generations, so that their children and grandchildren would have something to point to, as proof that the eastern tribes were still part of Israel, even across the river. They were afraid that one day the Jordan River would become a reason for the western tribes to say the eastern tribes had no share in God's people. The altar was a witness between them. It was never meant to have fire on it. Phinehas listened to every word. He watched them as they spoke. He had spent enough of his life in difficult situations to know the difference between a man covering himself and a man telling the truth. These men were telling the truth.
These videos take many hours to make. If you could, please like and subscribe. Also, we want to know which countries our viewers are watching this video from. Please comment the country you are watching from. Thank you. Until the next video.